Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be organizing Mosaic, a story of civilization, designed by Glenn Drover and published by Forbidden Games. This is a fully sleeved Colossus edition of the game that's organized to get gameplay started as soon as possible and also includes upgraded components. There's a little bit of lid lift here inside the box, but we'll talk about that and how you can get rid of it if you so desire in your copy of the game. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. Let's get started organizing Mosaic, a story of civilization. Before we get into the box, I do want to make two quick mentions. First off has to do with all of the upgraded components. In the original game, you'll have all of these cardboard tokens for your cities and your units, and then you'll also have cardboard tokens for your resources. We've gone ahead and removed them because they are redundant at this point. You don't really need to have all those extra components. They are going to be replaced completely by those upgraded versions. So if you do want to hold on to them, you can just bag them and then mix and match. It's up to you, but we've removed them from this organizing. The next thing I want to talk about is the playmat for the game. We actually use these architect tubes in order to hold our playmats for our library. They're a nice hard plastic here, and you simply turn that lid like so, and then your playmat is going to be able to come out. I really like the way that this is adjustable for height, so you can use this for a variety of different games. Super useful. Another cool feature about these playmat tubes is the top here, you can actually affix some art to the game. You've got this clear plastic screen that you lift like so, and then you can affix a piece of paper inside, so it's easy to tell which tube is for which game. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can find your own tube here, and for everything I talk about in this video, sleeves, bags, etc., I'll make sure to leave links in the description of this video. So take a look down there for anything that you want to use to help organize your game of Mosaic. All that out of the way, let's lift off the lid here, and inside you'll see that we have our large, oversized player boards on top. One of the options for the Colossus edition of the game were these giant player boards. They have these dials on the bottom that you can use in order to track the different icons for the specific goals in the game. You have indented areas on the board here for your resources, your different productions, your government tile, and then a place to put your population and any of the wonders or achievements that you've been able to claim. So I think that these are really gigantic, and if you do not have these, it's actually going to eliminate the lid lift of your game completely. So that is an option if you want to try to eliminate that lid lift. But if you do have them, they fit nicely on the top here, and you'll just put all of those large boards like so. Up next, we have the game board, and as mentioned before, we do use the playmat for the game. So if you are using the playmat, you can remove the game board, and that will also reduce the lid lift of the game to 0. So we do use the playmat, but just in case, you do have the game board here as well. Underneath our game board, we have our how to play rulebooks. So we've got 2 of those actually, and then our solo mode, the Hero Botus. To the left of that, we have our large recessed victory point track, and then some reference cards. These are actually super nice. They tell you all the different costs of the buildings you'll be creating, and then some reminders as to what the different wonders do, the governments, the golden ages, and the civilization achievements. So it's pretty nice so you don't have to continuously reference the tiles that are out there, and you have an idea of what you're going to be working towards. Super useful. There are 3 of these. You can share them between 2 players. We've got all of our normal size player boards. They're essentially the same thing. You'll be using cubes instead of the population figures to track your productions here, and then you just place all of your goods in this top area, and then your trade goods like so. There's no trackers for any of the icons or anything like that, but you've got them for all of the different factions here. Next up, we have all of our leader cards here. You're going to be using all of them in each game, as you'll give them to the player who's last, and they'll pick any leader that they want to, so you'll just put them in a large pile here, and then give them to that last player. In order to sleeve our leaders, we use the 89 by 146 millimeter sleeves, but these are actually a little bit bigger than they need to be. As you can see here, we actually are going to need to trim them a little bit with some scissors or a paper cutter for them to fit, but I'll go ahead and take a look to see if I can find some sleeves that are this exact size, and then put them in the description for you there in the bottom of the video. So those are our leader sleeves. We've got our score pad, as well as a laminated version for when this one runs out, and then a pencil in order to mark that score. Underneath those score pads, we have the gigantic first player marker. Talk about obnoxious, but don't worry, you're not going to forget who actually is the first player. And then you have all of your wonders miniatures. So you've got all of the miniatures that are going to be associated to the tiles, which we'll talk about in a second here, but they're all going to be in this section here. Speaking of tiles, you have all of your tiles in the game separated by their backs. As you can see here, we've got our Golden Age tiles, our Civilization achievements, and then our Government and Wonder tiles. So they're going to be reminders on what the different wonders do. That's going to give you some endgame scoring there, 3 victory points per adjacent city, but also some negative points here with that 3 unrest. And then you'll have these Government tiles as well. They're double-sided here. Make sure that they're on the side with that arrow so that you know that you still have that ability to refresh that market. So you can flip it over like so. In this upper right, we have some of these BGG microfiber bags. I really like the way that these work. They've got these nice rounded corners, so it's very easy to pull things out here. A nice flat bottom like so, and then you just cinch them open like so and pull out the tokens. Now in this big black bag, we have all of our standard trade good tokens. These are going to be organized onto the board on the areas that you're playing based on the player count. If it's got these trade goods, they stay where they are. If it's got an X, you return them back into the bag afterwards. The game originally says that you shuffle these all face down, then put them on the board. That's pretty dang tedious. What we do is we start from left and then go to the bottom right, so top left to bottom right, and we just pull one at a time and then seed the board that way. I think it works a lot faster, and then if you get an X, you just set it to the side and then throw it back into the bag. So I do really like this. It's already randomized and it's set up and ready to go for your next game here. In addition to the trade goods, you'll also have a smaller bag that's going to have all of your cash tokens. These are going to be one-time bonuses that have this specific background, and they'll go onto those specific spots on the board instead of the trade good tokens. So go ahead and pull from this bag and place one onto each of those cash spaces. On the bottom of this section, we'll have all of your harbor tokens as well as your wild trade goods symbol. One of the technology cards will let you have access to this token, and then you'll also have these harbor symbols that will go onto specific harbor spots, so they don't need to be randomized, so there's no reason to put them into anything. So you can just put them at the bottom of this section here and take them out when you need to. And lastly, we've got a lot of silica gel packets in here for freshness in that section as well. In the upper right, we have all of our standard size cards. We actually use the Ultra Pro Matte Deck Protector sleeves, standard size. This is my favorite brand of sleeves. I love the way that they shuffle. They keep the artwork as well. So I do recommend these Ultra Pro Matte standard size sleeves. Our two stacks of cards here are going to be separated into technology and then everything else. Our technology here, the top card is actually going to be the Empire scoring. You're going to have one of these for pretty much every type of card, so you'll want to keep it separate. It's going to go into a specific part of the deck. This is what triggers the end game. So you'll have one of those for each of the card types usually. Then you'll have all of your S, so starting technologies. You'll make sure to deal these out at the beginning of the game to the different players, and then after you've done that, you'll shuffle these starting cards into these standard technology cards. Notice they have none of those S symbols there. So once you have your decks ready to go, then you'll be ready to start that initial draft of your technology cards. This next stack of cards will be separated by types. We've got the tax and tariff cards, and once again, you're going to have separated that Empire scoring card. You'll have then all of your population, your build cards, and then lastly, your Hero Botus cards. So you'll have his location deck to decide where he's going to be taking his actions, and then you'll have the actual action deck itself. So make sure that you have those in their areas with those Empire scoring cards set aside. So that's everything in this right organizer. Let's go ahead and move it to the side. These left two organizers are actually identical, the resource bins for the game. We'll pop that top off here, and inside you'll see that we have not only the coins, but all of your resources. So in this right side here, we'll have all of your 1 food resources and your 5s. And you're going to want to evenly distribute these in between the 2 resource containers so you can put them on opposite sides of the table. So this is 1/2 of the resources, and then the other half will be in that one. So those are the 1s and 5s. You've got the 5 ideas and the 1 ideas. And then you have the 5 bricks, and lastly, the 1 bricks. Let me find a little guy for you. There you go, the 1 bricks. So that's all of your resources. And then you have the money, which is a flexible resource. So you have the 10s and the 20s inside of one of these. I find it kind of funny because the 20s are a little dirtier looking, and then you have the 10s, which are a lot shinier. And then you have something similar here with the 1s and the 5s, with the 5s looking a lot dirtier, but the 1s being a little bit shinier, but a little bit smaller as well. So you've got your 1s and 5s, and then your 10s and 20s in here. We'll move that other resource container to the side. And that brings us to our last section, our player components, separated into 6 different colors here. I'll go ahead and use this green bin just to show you what components are going to be in what and how we organize them. So you'll lift out the container like so and give it to the appropriate player. And generally, I find it pretty helpful to actually dump these out once you get them. And you'll notice there is a small plastic bag in here. This is going to have some cubes. You're going to use these to track your score at the very end of the game and during the game. You also can use them in order to track your resources. So you can put them into your player board if you're using the smaller player board to track your production on things. Now inside here, you'll find miniatures that will replace all of the cardboard tiles in the game. You'll have cities, and you can tell which one's which by the art here. So the cities are walled. You've got these little farm towns here. They've got that little field here with the agriculture. And then you'll have something similar with your different units. So you have these military infantry, and there is no real difference between the actual purpose of the infantry and cavalry unless you have a tactics card that says so. And then lastly, you're going to have, this is something you definitely need to know exists. You'll have 2 different sizes of these farmers here. This is your population. One is going to be worth 5, and then one is worth 1. If you're playing with those large player boards, you'll actually slot in those smaller farmers to track your production instead of those player cubes that are in those plastic bags. So that's everything in one of these large containers, and that will be the same for all 6 of them, one for each of the different player colors. So we'll go ahead and move those to the side. And that's everything inside of Mosaic. Let's go ahead and pack it up. First off, let's go ahead and put in those player components. So now we have all 6 fitted onto the bottom here. We'll then place our 2 resource containers on this left side like so, and then just slide them over. Next up, we'll put our card and token organizer on the right, our first player token and our Wonders miniatures back in, all of our large cardboard tiles like so, all of the technology cards, and then the remaining standard size cards, our silica gel packets, and then our 2 bags holding our cash tokens and then our trade tokens. And we'll just put them in like so that way they're fitting nice in there. They've got a nice shape that they can really form fit into here, so nothing's going to be sliding or poking out. We've got our pencil for tracking score, as well as our laminated and non-laminated score pads. We'll put all of our leader cards in this bottom right, followed by our smaller player boards on the left here, our player aids, and then our score track. Covering everything else on the right here, we have our rulebooks as well as our solo rules. Next up is our game board. And lastly, our deluxe oversized Colossus player boards. And that is organizing Mosaic, a story of civilization. If you have any questions about what you saw here, please let me know down in the comments below. How do you organize your copy of Mosaic, Story of Civilization? Did you get the Colossus edition of the game, or did you get the standard edition? What do you think of the game so far? Who's your favorite leader to use? Is this a good comparison to something like Through the Ages, or is it more in line with something like Terraforming Mars? I'd love to hear what you think. But thank you so much for watching. SideGame Strong.